Hey, a quick thing before we get started. While we were editing this video, we realized it was a lot easier for you to follow along with a digital bulletin than for us to try to put a bunch of titles on screen. It detracted from the art and was hard to follow. So, if you have some time, there's a link. There's going to be some words on the screen underneath my face here, as well as in the video about info to link you to the digital bulletin so that you have that to follow along if you want words to say or to sing throughout the service. We'll get started in just a second. Beloved, today's Good Friday worship service is one in which we remember the day in which Jesus died on a hill there in Jerusalem, on a cross, which was a common way that Romans put people to death in the time that Jesus lived. And on Good Friday, we remember sacrifice, we remember loss, and we remember a God that loved us in the midst of unthinkable difficulty. Earlier this year, in January, a friend of mine who's a local artist, Dana Caldera, and I started thinking about what we could do to bring some of our local arts community into how St. Stephen's celebrated Holy Week this year. And our plan was to have an art show that started on Palm Sunday and ended today on Good Friday in our sanctuary, where we had installations of art around the room from some local artists. And it was going to be a wonderful event, maybe start building something new. Well, as you know, plans have changed a little bit this year from what was anticipated, but we wanted to share the spirit of that and how we created our Good Friday service. So this contemplative prayer service will be largely a series of images of visual art, all created by local artists, some from our church community, that we can reflect on as we also reflect on the 7 last words of Jesus. And the music is a very particular type of music called Taizé music that comes from a intentional Christian community in France that was formed in the shadow of World War II and is very oriented towards prayer and peace. And the way Taizé music is supposed to work and is supposed to help us draw closer to God is through short, repetitive series of words that are sung an undetermined number of times. So the idea is you listen once or twice and learn what words to sing along with, and then sing along with the musicians leading the service. Our pastor of music and worship, Pastor Susie Bird, has put together some music for these reflections. So I'd encourage you to find somewhere you can be still and quiet and contemplative for this service as you focus on some images that connect with these themes of darkness and loss and sacrifice, as you reflect on the words Jesus spoke from the cross, as we read the passages of Scripture known as the 7 last words of Christ, and that you can sing your prayers to God as you reflect on this time through music that is called Taizé music. We'll now have some of that music to help usher us into the service and then be led in a kind of grounding and oriented liturgy by the Sullivan children, who will help us to begin our worship service together.
Bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's turn to the east where we find the wonder of creation and new beginnings. Let us welcome the people from the east, from Garden Oaks to Laos. Welcome. Let us walk in the light of the Lord, that we now may learn God's ways and that we may walk God's paths.
Bless my soul, oh bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me in true love.
We turn to the north, where the coolness of icy lands bring us crystal clear thinking. Let us welcome the people of the north, from acres homes to the Arctic Circle. Welcome. Let us walk in the light of the Lord, that we may learn God's ways and that we may walk God's paths.
Bless my soul, oh bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me in true love.
We turn to the west. As we can see beyond the earth's body, we remember that from which we came. Let us welcome the people from the west, from White Oak Bayou to the Pacific Ocean. Welcome. Let us walk in the light of the Lord, that we may learn God's ways and that we may walk God's paths.
Bless my soul, oh bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me in true love.
We turn to the south, where the waters of our lives are gently mixing. Let us welcome the people from the south, from Timber Grove to Tierra del Fuego. Welcome. Let us walk in the light of the Lord, that we may now learn God's ways and that we may walk God's paths.
Bless my soul, oh bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me in true love.
Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." They drew lots as a way of dividing up his clothing.
Lord, hear my prayer, Lord, hear my prayer.
Jesus replied, I assure you that today you will be with me in paradise.
Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, Woman, here is your son. Then he said to the disciple, Here is your mother. And from that time on, the disciple took her into his home. about 3, Jesus cried out with a loud shout, "Elia, Elia, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you left me?"
Is never darkness in your sight. The deepest night is clear as the daylight. Our darkness is never darkness in your sight. The deepest night is clear as the daylight. La ténèbre n'est point ténèbre devant toi. La nuit comme le jour est lumière. La ténèbre n'est point ténèbre devant toi. La nuit comme le jour est lumière. Our darkness is never darkness in your sight. The deepest night is clear as the daylight.
After this, knowing that everything was already completed, in order to fulfill the scripture, Jesus said, "I am thirsty."
Nada te turbe, nada te espante, quien a Dios quiere, nada le falta. Nada te turbe, nada te espante, solo Dios basta. Nada te turbe, nada te espante, quien a Dios quiere, nada le falta. Nada te turbe, nada te espante, solo Dios basta. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten those who seek God shall never go wanting. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. God alone fills us. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. Those who seek God shall never go wanting. Nothing can trouble, nothing can frighten. God alone fills us. Nada te espante, quien a Dios tiene, nada le falta. Nada te turbe, nada te espante, solo Dios basta.
When he had received the sour wine, Jesus said, "It is completed." Bowing his head, he gave up his life.
salvation comes from God. My soul is at rest in God alone. My salvation comes from God. My soul is at rest in God alone. My salvation comes from God. My soul is at rest in God alone. My salvation comes from God. My soul is at rest. My soul is at rest. My salvation comes from God. My soul is at rest in God. My salvation comes from God.
Crying out in a loud voice, Jesus said, "Father, into your hands I entrust my life." After he said this, he breathed for the last time.
Bleibet hier und wachet mit mir, wachet und betet, wachet und betet. Bleibet hier und wachet mit mir, wachet und betet. Stay with me, remain here with me. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. Stay with me, remain here with me. Watch and pray. Watch and pray. Bleibet hier und wachet mit mir. Wachet und betet. Wachet und betet. Bleibet hier und wachet mit mir. Wachet und betet.
Friends, I hope you found this service to be a meaningful reflection on the last days of Jesus' life. If you are interested in any of the art that you saw in this presentation, a little bit more information about the artists, including contact information, is in the information that accompanies this video on Facebook and on YouTube. Additionally, we hope you'll join us this Easter Sunday for worship. Wherever you're watching this now, you'll be able to join us for worship on Easter at 11 a.m. on this coming Sunday. Friends, in the midst of the darkness of this moment, God is enough. Go in peace.
Se repose en paix sur Dieu seul, de lui rest in peace. In God alone my soul can find rest in peace. In God my peace and joy. Only in God my soul can find its rest. Find its rest and peace. Mon âme se repose en paix sur Dieu seul. De lui vient mon salut. Oui, sur Dieu seul, mon âme se